I have learned more about my nutrition in the last 5 to 6 months with you than I have learned in my entire time of trying this out. Not only you, but from all the guys in the group. I am at my lowest weight and I feel better than I ever have. Composition wise, I feel better than I ever have. And I think a lot of that really comes down to learning how to eat, looking at food differently and looking how to eat and why you're eating at a certain time and stuff.
Right.
That's where I've learned more than I ever did before.
Hey there, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, and today I've got something special for you. I'm doing a conversation/interview with one of my personal coaching students, Justin Trussoni, and he came on board with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint 6 months ago, and he's made an amazing transformation. And over the course of his fitness and fat loss journey, he's lost over 100 pounds, and he's not only sustained it, but he's continuing to make progress. This is an ongoing journey, and it's all about sustainable health and fitness. And that's what I'm a big advocate of. And Justin is living and breathing, and this has become his lifestyle. So that's why I want to share it with you here today. First off, let me introduce you. Justin, welcome to the conversation. We're doing a virtual chat now through Zoom. So introduce yourself to our listeners and people who are tuning in. Like, who are you? Where are you from? And all that stuff.
I'm Justin Trussoni, obviously. I'm actually from Minnesota. I grew up in a small town of about 15,000 people. I grew up as an only child. I was always the big kid that never really exercised and stuff. I had asthma. The mile run in gym class was like the worst thing in the world for me. And so that kind of was my unfortunate downfall for exercise, for my whole life. Was I just didn't have always the push to do more until way later in my adult life.
So you had a rough start from early on. Like, were you always heavy, like even as a child, going through elementary school and stuff like that?
I was a little bigger, but I wouldn't say significantly bigger.
Okay.
I think the asthma was the real killer. Obviously, health food and all that wasn't big back then either. Our family wasn't, big onto eating super healthy, kind of the normal American kid. You ate burgers and fries and went out to eat and like that, McDonald's and crap like that. It just becomes part of who you are and what you do.
I can relate to that.
So,
I mean, I grew up in the same type of household. There was many a dinners with frozen fish sticks and French fries and hot dogs and hamburgers, stuff that you throw in the oven and heat up, and frozen pizzas. And if you don't know any different, and that's what you're growing up eating, those habits become installed. I mean, like, that's just the norm.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even realize that they're not eating healthy. Hey, doesn't everybody eat like this?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You were over 300 pounds at one point. So, I mean, just talk about that. Like, what led you to getting there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 305 was where I tipped my scale. I actually saw myself in the mirror one day and then had that big realization that, holy crap, what in the hell have you done to yourself? And you let yourself just completely go to hell. And I remember too, just like not long before that, like my knees were killing me all the time. The bottom of my feet were always hurting from just having all that weight. I mean, I stand at work a lot. I work at a casino. So I stand for a long period of time. And it makes it all that just keeps combining into just one big crap pile. And it eventually you fall into it. And I had that moment of clarity and I saw myself in the mirror and I just said, I got to do something. I could just feel in my head that something was going to go wrong. And that day was the day that I went downstairs. I put on my shoes and I started to walk out the door, and my wife looked at me and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm going for a walk." Ask anyone that knows me. I am not that guy. I was definitely I'm going to go for a walk type of guy. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yep."
Are you okay?
Don't worry about me. Just let me go,
Wow.
And I did. I walked. I started walking. I still walk that route today all the time just because it reminds me of that day and why I started this. I'm sure if anyone had seen me that day, they would have been like, why is there a big fat slob dude walking around and crying like hysterically? Because I was crying. all the emotions hit me at once. Like,
Wow.
you need to do literally everything you can right now. I don't even remember like what I said to my wife, but I remember telling her I needed to do something. And I remember the first thing she said is, whatever you got to do, I'll be there to help you out. I knew that I had that support from day one, and she has supported me through everything I have ever tried, done, and succeeded in. And she still continues to this day to support me in whatever endeavor I've done. And it means everything. My family support system is huge. If you have at least one person in your life that is willing to push with you and do this with you, even if they don't do anything, as long as they're not pushing you away from where you want to go and they're pushing you towards that, that's all you need. It's kind of like when you see all the football players, they kind of push each other past the line to try to get the first down. That's where that's what I feel like a family support system is. They're the ones pushing you to get to the right place.
No, I respect that. And that makes a huge difference, Justin, because I've seen it so often where the husband wants to lose weight and the wife is not supportive, or vice versa. Then it doesn't work. If you don't have that support at home, it creates a lot of friction and makes this whole process exponentially more difficult. And one thing that I've always said, and I've heard this from my own fitness coaches in the past, is your environment is more powerful than your willpower.
Oh,
so if you don't have that environment, that supportive environment at home to help, like you can't willpower your way through it. So you have to kind of somehow create that support system, whether it's at home or somewhere else. But the fact that your wife was supportive, that's so invaluable towards your hitting your health and fitness goals. And I'm sure that's a big reason why, you have been so successful, a big part of it for sure.
Even after starting, I was probably 6 months, maybe a year into like doing this. And I actually found out that a very close friend of mine was diagnosed with diabetes. And that was like another like fire starter too. When you hear that and you find that out, it's like, holy crap, I could have been there. It just fueled my fire to continue going because I didn't want to get to that point too.
The diabetes is becoming rampant. I mean, it's huge and it's scary. Like I didn't really understand it myself until I've seen firsthand some family members go through diabetes and fully go through it, where their eyesight starts to go and they lose circulation in their limbs, and having to have their toes amputated, then their foot amputated, and their leg amputated, and then like spending thousands of dollars to renovate their house to make it wheelchair accessible, having to sell the car, get a van that's wheelchair accessible, and all this like I mean, not just medical bills, but home renovations and lifestyle changes that rack up into the tens and tens of thousands of dollars. I don't know, like it's crazy. Like they were the hardworking breadwinners, the man of the house, providing for everyone else, and then he went to the point where now he's the burden, and everyone has to take care of him. Like he can't even take care of himself anymore. So like, man, like that's a hard way to go, not just physically but mentally and emotionally and everything else. Like to go from the provider to the burden. Like, I mean, I know we're all eventually going to go that way, but hey, I want to do whatever I can to prolong it and maximize the years that I have here. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, my kids were 2 and 1 when I started this whole thing, and I was like, these are my motivators. We want to make sure that they don't have the fat dad, the dad bod dude. I always told myself too, once I started this journey, like I didn't want my kids being the reason why I had to look at myself and realize that I needed to lose weight. I didn't want them going, hey dad, you're fat. And then you like you in the head and you go, oh great, now my kids are noticing, that I'm screwing up. I told myself 2 things. It wasn't going to be my kids doing it, and it wasn't going to be the doctor. And so I realized if I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to take it on myself and I'm going to do it the right way. And even like our doctor, she has even said like so many times, like when I've taken the kids in for appointments and stuff, she goes, you have really lost a lot of weight, haven't you? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you look really good. It's just such a good feeling to know that like somebody that knew you from way before realizes it and sees that. Right before I started and realized that I had this moment that I actually was going to have to go up a pant size. I was right at that cusp of going to 44s. If I'm like barely hanging on to 42s, I can't go to 44s because then I'm just letting myself fall apart here. And now I'm running like 34s.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So you're looking at 8 to 9, pan sizes here that I've dropped.
When you see your clothes changing, that's solid evidence that, hey, this is working. Sometimes looking at yourself in the mirror or how you feel, like that's kind of subjective, but when you tighten that belt up another notch, or you got to get a pair of smaller pants, that solidifies it, like
it's a great feeling. Or like 3X shirts down to medium.
Wow. Yeah,
that's my favorite part. For my weight loss goals, it's not always been like a weight loss goal for like a number. A lot of times it's been a shirt that I always wanted to wear. So I'll buy that shirt in that size that I wanted, and then I would go by shirt sizes and just keep going down to using it as a goal.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I actually had a shirt that I've been wanting to wear for like the last 2 years, and I finally got to fit in it where it's actually semi loose on me, and that's a medium. When I put that on and finally actually felt loose on that was a hell of a feeling right there.
Oh yeah, I can appreciate that for sure. And vice versa, it's not a nice feeling when you have to go up in size with clothes.
No.
That was one of the straws, I guess, that broke the camel's back for me as well. Because a few years back, when I let myself go, got the whole dad bod after my son was born and everything else. I remember my wife and we were going to a special event. It was a black tie event, and I had to get my suit and tie out of the closet. And I'm not one to wear suit and tie very often. Like, it's only special occasions I wear suit and tie. So got the suit out of the closet, put it on, the shirt, and it ain't buttoning up, right? That's not a nice feeling, right? When it ain't buttoning up. And I had to go then and buy a whole new suit for this event that was coming up that weekend, right?
Oh no!
And cost a small fortune to get fitted into the whole suit again. And that was a big wake up call for me. It's like, you know what? I can't keep going down this road. And again, like you mentioned earlier with the kids, like, I didn't want my son to grow up with a fat, out of shape dad. That was my motivation to really make a change, not just for me, but for them as well, and for my family, right? For my son and that. And I can totally relate to where you're coming from. The feeling of, now I'm not into the extra large shirts anymore. Now I'm not even into the large. Like, say, I mean, this shirt I'm wearing now is going to be a medium shirt, right? It's an amazing feeling to fit into clothes several sizes smaller, right? Have to buy new belts because there's not enough holes in the other one, and it's or I end up poking them through with a screwdriver, right?
Yeah, done that before too. Right? It's a good feeling when you get to do that too. You're like, yeah, get another one there.
Right?
Let's go.
That. But then the end of the belt is so long now, like it flaps on the side, so you need to get a proper fitting belt. So I've had to do that recently as well, which is cool.
That's awesome.
But for sure, clothes, man, it's one of those things that solidifies your progress, either good or bad, right? Whether it's going up or going down.
Absolutely.
We want to see it going down. So just share, like what did you do? Like, what was your initial steps as far as like exercise, nutrition? What did you do to get that ball rolling?
I counted calories for literally the first year. It's 365 days. I counted calories every single day. I found the first app that I could. It was a free app. It was called Lose It, and I said I wanted to lose as much weight as I could, healthily. It said 2 pounds a week, and I said, all right, let's do that. And then it gave me my calories, and then I just started plugging in my food. I started weighing in food. I actually still have it, and I still use it. My favorite thing that I have for my wife, and it still is very symbolic for me, is my weight scale. I have a food scale, a kitchen food scale that my wife bought me. Still use it to this day, 5 years later. It's the first gift she gave me when I was starting this journey.
Okay.
She gave me that. Later on, when I actually joined the gym, I joined like an Anytime Fitness. She bought me a gym bag and weightlifting gloves. And that to me was like the solidification of having that support system when she's like, here, I know what you're doing. This is what I want to do for you. She went to the store and bought these things for me and came home and she goes, hey, this is what I bought you. And it meant everything. Like, hey, I'm going to be there for you and you're going to use this. And I did. Like I said, I used it pretty much every day for 5 years. I did that for the nutrition portion. And then I continued walking And I finally did at the end of November. I joined Anytime Fitness, and I remember going in there and talking to the manager. I said, "What do I got to do to sign up?" We signed up, and the first month or two, I just went in whenever I could, and I did cardio, elliptical, treadmill, whatever, bike. I thought that was how you lost weight, and I would just do what I could, and with my size, it was not easy to do cardio at 300 pounds. I kept always looking at the weight area, and I was scared. I was like, I'm not going to hurt myself because I don't know what to do. And I wouldn't know what to do when I picked up a dumbbell anyway.
It's intimidating for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It can be very intimidating. And I finally said, you know what, I'm gonna talk to her about seeing if she knows a trainer. So she got hold of one of their trainers, and I ended up, doing about 9-10 sessions with them and learning how to weightlift. And I learned what I could from him. Unfortunately, it wasn't a sustainable thing for me with money wise and personality wise. That was my first learning what a coach was, or what I thought was a coach at that point. And then I took on, after I was done with those sessions, I figured I knew what I was doing at that point, started doing my own thing. And I went 4 or 5 days a week. I took what he had taught me, and I learned, and then I watched, and I got to know the guys that would go in there at the times that I went, and I asked questions, and I learned a lot of things, got to know the equipment and how to use it. And I lost a ton of weight through doing that. But then I got to that point where after about a year and a half, my willpower, which you speak of, is kind of faltered. I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted. And I started kind of wavering and not knowing what I was doing because I didn't have any other knowledge. And I felt at that point that I needed to find something more. I needed to get some instruction, and I really didn't know at that time about YouTube and what YouTube had to offer, which sounds kind of weird. And
that applies to anything, like any topic you can think of. There's a whole world on YouTube where the best of the best is there.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
crazy, but
it somehow I didn't learn about it. But this is where my wife comes in. I told her one day, I said, I came home early. I actually left, came home 20 minutes later, and she's like, well, weren't you going to go work out? And I said, I got no motivation to do it anymore. I said, I don't know what to do. Nothing feels right. I told her, I said, I need structure. I need somebody to tell me, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. And this is why you're going to do it. So I could actually feel like there was something more. And she's like, well, hopefully we can find something around this area. And not 2 weeks later, on Facebook was the ad for Training for Warriors, which is our local gym that we have. My wife comes over and she goes, hey, why don't you put something up on Facebook and see what it's about? And so I did. I actually got a message from a good friend of mine, and she messaged me and she said, hey, this is my before and after. This is what I've been doing. I love this place. Come and join us. So July 4th, I went in and I did it, and I fell in love. And it was and literally on the whiteboard, it says, this is what we're going to do. We're going to spend an hour working out, and that's it. You're not going to be doing this for 2 hours. It's structured for 1 hour. You get in, you get out. And I was like, all right, sign me up. How much, take me, please. And to this day, I've been with them for well over 3 years. Again, another giant support system through my life, another family. I actually am one of the coaches now through that.
So this Training for Warriors, is this a boot camp gym? Where you go through group workouts? You do
group workouts where you have a coach that is instructing, through what you're doing. Strength workouts, you're doing HIIT workouts, and it changes every day. So you're not doing the same thing, constantly, and you get to learn how to lift correctly. It's, we work on form. And yes, the group workouts where you're motivating each other, you're pushing each other to get better, and you're really pushing yourself to get better. And that's what's key. Really made a huge difference for me versus walking into the gym and just trying to figure it out on my own.
Sure. Have that coaching and camaraderie and everything together.
You can modify literally anything. It's saying, hey, we're going to do back squat and you can't back squat. Well, then we're going to find a different way so you can still do something that is teaching you those same muscles to work, just in a lot less invasive way.
I can relate to that. I mean, that's one of the things we focus on in the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint is, instead of getting hung up on the exercise, focus on working the muscle, right?
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
I guess I've learned a little competition is not a bad thing, but you should be competing against yourself.
That's where a lot of injuries can come from. And I've been guilty of that as anybody, like trying to keep up with somebody at the gym and end up, oh shit, there goes the rotator cuff. There goes the elbows, the knees, the lower back.
Yep.
That's one of the things, like I've learned to let go of the ego and listen to my body. So if something doesn't feel right, I have no shame in stopping the exercise short. Live to lift another day. That's one of my mottos, right? Live to live another day instead of going in there and getting hurt. And this is something we should really touch on, because of all the things that you can do, you could skip a workout and that's not really going to set you back. Because I mean, you can always pick it up the next day. You can do an easy workout. Like, who cares, right? Again, if it's easy, it's still something's better than nothing. And you can always pick it up and go harder the next day. But if you do too much too soon and get injured, that's going to set you back. And depending on the degree of the injury, that could be, it could be a minor injury or it could be a major one. And I've had injuries that have taken like literally a year or more to fully recover. And in some cases, they may never recover, depending on how bad it is. Like if it's muscle tears or tendon and ligament tears, I mean, that might haunt you for the rest of your life.
Agree. So, and I've hurt my back deadlifting, where my back probably isn't fully recovered. I mean, I have times where my lower back is still more messed up than it was before.
I mean, how long ago was that?
God, that was Christmas of 2 years ago. So,
right. So I mean, it's still a lingering injury.
Yeah, I mean, like deadlifting is definitely not in my wheelhouse anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done it too much where it doesn't work for me. I think that's the biggest thing too, is like, I have learned that for myself, heavy lifting is not my repertoire. One of the biggest things I have learned from you is it doesn't matter what you do. It's the fact that you do it. Even if it's just a basic workout. And it's kind of funny because I kind of go back to where I started on my first walk. How I met you is by watching a 10-minute video of you talking about walking.
What was it that actually brought you to me and the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint to begin with? Because, I mean, obviously, you were doing quite well on your own. You were working out, you joined the Anytime Fitness, and you found that after a while that plateaued, but then you found this new gym, the Training for Warriors, and that was working. You were counting your calories. So, I mean, like, you had a decent system in place. I mean, granted, there's probably some ups and downs along the way, but, like, why did you reach out to me? Like, what was the whole issue for that?
The thing that was really getting me before I found you was that my nutrition was kind of up and down. I was having a hell of a time keeping myself satiated. I was hungry all the time. I gained a little bit, like I gained maybe 10, 12 pounds back from the lockdowns and stuff, but I couldn't figure out why. I was just hungry all the time. And I felt like for my nutrition, I needed to find something different. I needed to find some way. Never did I realize until I was watching a different video. On the bottom was one of your links. I can't even remember what the description was on there, but it said something about, how important walking is or something. And I was like, all right, what's this guy got to say? I'm that type of guy that will go down the rabbit hole on YouTube way too long at times, So I was like, all right, let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit more. I've already gone for an hour probably. So let's
right. What's one more video?
Yeah, right. And it was like, okay, 10 minutes. Now I can go to bed after that. And it was just you walking outside with your dog.
Yeah, I remember that one. Mm-hmm.
In the snow. And it talks about, how just getting out for a 10-minute walk, strapping on your shoes and getting out for a 10-minute walk is such a key thing to do to help your weight loss. And I was like, holy crap, this guy's talking to me. This guy knows what's up, because I've done this myself before. And, and I got done with it, and the Muscle After 40 blueprint came up, and I was like, obviously this guy's got something to say. So let's find out what he's got. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole of looking into your stuff and seeing, what it was about. And I was like, well, I'm not over 40, but you know what? This guy probably knows what the hell he's talking about. It seems, because he's gone through the same type of I have,
I mean, how old are you? Just for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I'm 34. Yeah.
Okay, but still, same principles
felt
apply for guys in their 30s as they do for in their 40s, and
right.
you're going to be
Same thing.
okay.
But for me, it was I liked your approach. I looked at your before and afters, and see, before and afters for me is huge. You know, when you see somebody that has gone through the same stuff as you have, and when you went from bodybuilding to gaining all the weight to losing it back and going through your show, to me that said a lot about you. Something clicked in my mind that I needed to get back and switch.
Mhm.
You know, that was the same thing for me. I didn't have the history, but for me it was the same thing as you had to get yourself back to where you wanted to be, and this is how you had to do it. And then just kind of watching like different videos on what you had talked about, it was like, all right, this is a no-brainer. I've got to try something different that might help me, because you can go and do the same thing over and over and over until maybe you just don't realize that you have to go outside the box to see a different thought process. So I figured, you know, what's the hurt? I've tried a million things before. What's another, you know, and you know what? It's made a big difference.
One thing, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, is there's a lot of information online, and like especially YouTube, we go on down the fitness rabbit hole. There's so much information out there, and a lot of it is good information.
Oh yeah.
You know, most reputable channels are providing good information. Now, some of it is a bit controversial here and there, and you know, there's always going to be haters and bitchers and complainers of some people saying, you know, I don't agree with this and that and the other thing. But for the most part, it's good, solid information. But the thing you got to look at it is, who's that information geared for? Because this is where it can get so confusing, because the whole topic of fitness and nutrition in and of itself, it's eating right and exercising and living a healthy lifestyle. Okay, like that's the basic stuff. But then once you start going into the rabbit hole, as you mentioned, then it can get bigger and bigger and more complex. So like, are we looking at helping an athlete improve their sport performance? Are we looking at helping a bodybuilder to peak for a competition, or a fitness model to get ripped for a photo shoot, or you know, a 20-something-year-old guy to bulk up and add muscle to his frame? Or are we looking to help like a middle-aged dad lose his gut and get back in shape? There's so many different areas, and that's why I focus on the muscle after 40, which is basically building a lean muscular physique, you know, into your 40s and beyond. And even though it's called muscle after 40, it's build muscle, lose fat, because that's most of the guys. Fat loss is a big chunk of their goal, but they also want to have a body recomposition where they're building lean muscle in the process. And thinking of people who don't have endless time to work out, like you're not an athlete or a bodybuilder who's trying to turn a pro or something like that. Not like, hey, I'm going to spend 2 hours a day, 6 days a week in the gym, and I'm going to suffer it out on boiled chicken and broccoli. I mean, yes, that works, but
right.
you know, who's going to stick that out as a lifestyle day in, day out for the rest of their life? Like, you might do it for a few weeks or a few months, but like, you ain't going to do it for the next 40 years. Right? Like, nobody's going to suffer it out. And that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn coming from the bodybuilding background is I was guilty of the all or nothing extreme approach. All in, 2 hours in the gym, boiled chicken and broccoli, burning the candle at both ends. And yeah, that works, but it's not sustainable. Sooner or later, you're going to run out of willpower, and then you're going to say like, screw it, I can't do this anymore. And then you go back to your old habits again. And then that's when the binge eating starts and the weight rebound, yo-yo diet, all that stuff. And that's what I was guilty of. And I actually had to get a coach and a system in place. And that's what we cover within the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint. But that's what helped me to get out of this all or nothing thinking and focus on being good enough, but good enough consistently. And that's my mantra now. You've heard me say it over and over again, and I keep saying it, like, it's good enough, but good enough consistently. That is such a relief. You don't have to be perfect. Like, you can screw up from time to time. It's okay. You're a human being. You can skip a workout, you can cheat on your diet, you can do whatever. As long as you get back on track for your next workout or your next meal, whatever, and you have more good days than bad, you can still make this work. So I always like, it's like a balance scale, right? As long as there's more good days than bad, we can still make it work, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. And that is such a liberating feeling.
Yeah. The biggest thing I think I've learned from you too is consistency is key. I mean, if that came down to any motto of anything you've taught any of us, is consistency is key, no matter what it is. It could be in your nutrition, it can be in your workouts, it can be in just standard movement of your day, just doing it, just consistency is key. It's just consistently doing something is better than sitting on your ass and not doing a damn thing. And that's what it is. Because yeah, there's days where I have no energy because I work a weird shift. When you are all sleeping, I'm getting up and working. But I realize that even though I'm tired, even though that I absolutely no energy, I still try to do something and get it in, because I know that it's going to be better than me not doing anything at all. And then being consistent with my nutrition. Like, I have learned more about my nutrition in the last 5 to 6 months with you than I have learned in my entire time of trying this out. Learning from not only you, but from all the guys in the group, learning different ways of thinking. When you change your entire thought process on how you eat, that you may not have learned from other people. Even though I am in an amazing group over at the other gym, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to learn all the things you need to learn. You will find a little bit of knowledge here and a little bit of knowledge here. That's where I've learned that I told myself from the beginning, I was going to soak up as much knowledge as I possibly could, so I could then eventually take it and bring it into what it is now. I wasn't always trying to do that. I just happened to do that, where it all kind of funneled into one thing. And that's where I am now. I am at my lowest weight and I feel better than I ever have. Composition wise, I feel better than I ever have. And I think a lot of that really comes down to learning how to eat, why you're eating at a certain time and stuff. Right. That's where I've learned more than I ever did before. Like you were talking about, like you've had coaches yourself. Coaches have coaches upon coaches. We all have somebody that's going to teach us things and that we're going to teach others. We all are students and teachers. You have to have an array of teachers, because not every one person is going to know every bit of knowledge you're going to need. You have to have tons of people around you that can teach you all different types of things. And then you can go and teach more people things. You teach me something. Now I can say I'm talking to somebody and they go, well, I'm having problems with this. I actually learned this from my coach. You came out with a thing about cravings that I use all the time, and you use the example of ice cream. Want to go and have ice cream with your family or something, like out at the ice cream shop, eat your protein and your veggies and have your healthy meal beforehand, so you're full up on all the good stuff. And if you're still craving that ice cream, get the same size as you're going to have with your kids. You get that little kid size ice cream and you get that taste of that ice cream, and then you kill your craving off, and then you continue and move on. You're not going to kill yourself with 1,000 calories and tons of sugar. You're just going to have that little bit, and then you go on with your meal. And it's great. Like, people always talk about cheat meals. We've talked about cheating on your diet. No, I don't give a crap, because I can eat that stuff whenever I want now.
Exactly.
And to me, it's not even a bump in the road. It's just part of my life. If I want to have a cookie, I'm going to have a damn cookie. And then I'm going to continue on, as long as I've given myself the best chance at having that healthy meal beforehand. I'm going to have a cookie, and it's not going to affect my life. Yeah. People get literally thrown off by, a thing this big, because they let themselves. Yeah. And I learned through 5 years of doing this that I just don't let myself get thrown off on stupid crap like that anymore.
I hear you, man. Mm-hmm.
And that's what's important.
It takes a while for this to sink in, but it doesn't take any more time to eat a healthy meal than it does to eat an unhealthy meal. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time to meal prep, or I don't have time. In a lot of cases, it can actually be quicker to have a healthy meal than an unhealthy one, especially if you consider, okay, I'm going to jump in the car, I'm going to run to the drive-thru, I'm going to get something. In all that time, you could have whipped something up at home, or even to heat up a frozen pizza. Like, okay, it's still going to take 10 or 20 minutes to cook a frozen pizza in the oven. I could whip up a salad with some chicken or whatever, like in a matter of minutes, and have that ready to eat in less time than it takes to heat up a frozen pizza. So the excuse of it takes too much time to eat healthy, that's a mental block. That's not a physical excuse. That's a mental excuse, really.
And you know, the other thing too, you can eat that other food and you'll still be hungry 2 hours later. Usually I'm still full 3 hours down the line after, and I have more energy because I filled myself up with good stuff. And I'm not hungry now later on to go get more crap.
That's a big one too. When you eat sweet food and junk food and processed foods, it actually stimulates your appetite even more. And those foods are designed like that by the companies. Like, it's not a fluke that you can't stop at one potato chip. Like, it's designed by the manufacturers.
Right.
Consume and consume. And you don't get satiated. Like, you could eat a whole bag of potato chips and you don't get full. Whereas if you eat a whole bag of apples, nobody can eat a full bag of apples. Like, you eat 1, 2, maybe 3 apples, and you're like, man, I'm stuffed. I can't eat any more apples. How about cookies? You could eat a whole box of cookies, right? So, I mean, when you're eating the natural unprocessed foods, it just naturally fills you up.
Yes.
You don't need to be as strict with the calorie counting because you won't want to eat that much. Like, nobody's just going to go on a chicken breast binge or an apple binge or a broccoli binge or anything. Like, it's not going to happen.
Well, and I know one of the biggest things that I've learned through working with you too is like, you can eat healthy and lose weight correctly, like healthily, and you can eat a crap ton of food.
The volume is huge. Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, I have learned to make big meals and I have a lot of food here and it's great. I mean, there's times when you would look at the same amount of food and you'd be like, you'd have this little like plate that's maybe this big and you got like barely nothing in there. You would look at that meal, like say from McDonald's or whatever, and you'd be like, well, I could eat 2 of these easily. But when I make my meals are like, they're freaking gigantic. And you know that it's going to be damn good too.
Right. If you're eating the right foods, you can eat a lot of volume, get a lot of eating satisfaction, a lot of time under taste. I refer to it as a lot of food, right? Like, you can have a big meal as long as it's the natural unprocessed foods like protein and vegetables and stuff like that. Like, you can eat until it's coming out your ears and enjoy it.
For me personally, because I've gone through this and I definitely want to share this, within the last 4 months or so, I actually went through my own mental health crisis. And the pandemic really brought a lot of rough things out through emotions and stuff, you know, raw emotions that I didn't know I even had going on. But I went through a lot of mental health things in the last 4 months that I kept a lot of it to myself. I kept it through with my family and only very close people knew about what was going on. But now I've realized that a lot of people go through these mental struggles. They don't know what to do. And they don't give themselves the credit of taking care of themselves through this. And I hired a therapist and I gave myself some time to really take care of my brain and what it needed through that time. And that was probably one of the most important things I ever did in my life. Losing weight and going through that was very important, but going through and taking care of myself was the most important thing I could have ever done. And I'm a much better person because of it. I'm very glad that I did what I did and got out of that kind of that darkness. And I feel like, you know, people need to know that there is a way out of that. You just got to talk to the right people. You know, you got to find that help. Because if you don't put your mind towards what you're doing, your body won't go at all.
There's that mind-body connection, absolutely.
Yeah, because your mind makes your body do everything. But if you aren't taking care of yourself either, it doesn't matter if you say, oh, I want a workout today and I want to do this and that. If you aren't taking care of yourself mentally, you ain't going to do it anyways. You know, you're going to have a tough time. So it's definitely another, you know, aspect of my life that I want to share with people because it is a very important thing that I've gone through and that I'm ready to share with the world. Because I think part of it is it's such a hard part of life that people don't give themselves credit for going through.
Yeah. No, I respect that. And I bet during this whole time, the fact that you were working out and taking care of yourself physically, like that was a good anchor to help you get through the mental challenges as well.
It definitely was. Because I think if I had been where I was before, I would have fallen off way worse than I mean,
Right.
you know, and it actually kept me more motivated in a way. It was
like an anchor to hold you in place.
it did. It was like, no,
Yeah.
you're gonna stay right here and you're gonna continue eating the way you need to eat. And it was, because if I hadn't had that anchor, and I would have let it all go. It wouldn't have taken much, honestly, probably one bad trip to the buffet to let it all go. I had to continue to hold myself accountable. And I didn't have that if I didn't have that anchor, it wouldn't have taken much.
I respect that. Yeah. I mean, everyone has their crutch that they need to reach for when they're going through stress. Like some people it's food, some people it's alcohol, some people it's recreational drugs or whatever. Like everyone has their crutch. I've developed it to the point where my crutch is exercise. Like I have to exercise, and that's what I reach for. So it's ingrained now that it's become habitual. Like whenever I feel stressed, I just like, hey, I put everything that I'm doing away, get my sneakers, and I'm going to exercise, whether that's going to the gym, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's going for a bike ride or something. But I have to get out and move, just get the body moving. And then that's my stress relief, right? That's what I reach for. That's my crutch. For some people, they got to reach for the food or the drink or the whatever, the smoke. For me, I reach for the sneakers, right? Sneakers, that's my crutch.
The sneakers are the crutch. I like it.
And get my ass moving. That's the thing. Get out of that environment that was causing me to feel stressed out, whatever it is, and just move. And more often than not, it's outside. If the weather is suitable, hey, get out for a walk, get out for a bike ride, just the fresh air. It's therapeutic and exercise all in one.
I actually did a workout with a friend of mine earlier today. It felt amazing. Like I got done with our workout. I felt euphoric. I was like, oh, there we go. I just needed to move and just needed to do something. I got done and I'm like, all right, everything's feeling better. It was a great start to the day.
Let's really get into talking about your transformation, because I know back in November of 2016, like you really hit the rock bottom. Like you were over 300 pounds. I think you said you were 305.
Yes.
And so like, where are you right now?
I weighed in at 198.4 this morning.
198. So that's 107 pounds.
Yeah.
That's respectable, man. Oh man. Like just share that. Like, how is that different now?
It changes everything. Energy. I could never do the amount of workouts and the different things that I do at the gym, having cardiovascular endurance. And truthfully, it's just being able to sit and not feeling like I'm, breathing hard, getting up and down, like going, if I got up and I walked up the stairs, I shouldn't feel out of breath when I do that. I used to feel out of breath walking up a flight of stairs. Now I can run up a flight of stairs. I could keep moving and I could continue that for quite a while if I wanted to. That doesn't affect me anymore because I've gained that endurance and I don't have all that weight just flopping around on me too.
What about mentally, confidence wise and everything else?
You change yourself completely when you go through this transformation. I was weak-minded, I was weak-bodied back then, and now I'm strong. I can do whatever I want without, anything stopping me physically and mentally. I know what I'm capable of. When I started, I promised myself that I wasn't going back. That's been one of my mottos. Like you have your motto. One of my mottos is I'm never going back. I look at that picture. There is no way in hell that unless something like went completely off the rails that I didn't have a choice of, there's no way I'm going back to that guy. Like I'm fighting forward every time. I don't have to care if I have to crawl to do it. I'm going to fight forward. I'm going to go forward and I'm going to fight every day to keep being better for myself, for my family. And you gain that by just continuously fighting through. With the knowledge that I've learned and how to eat and how to work out, I know that I've gained it through a long period of time. But I guess the one key thing I could throw to anyone is make things simple. People overcomplicate literally everything. I did too. For the last 4 months that I've been going through this mental struggle, I was overcomplicating my entire life. I finally dug out of my own stuff because I finally started going, I'm going to make this simple. I'm going to just do what I need to do and then let the rest of it go. I think fear is a big part of it too. Like we're afraid to do something different. We're afraid to try and we're afraid to fail. Yeah, guess what? We all fail. We all fall on our butts and we fall on our face, but most people don't get back up. Most people are not strong enough to just get back up and say, well, I fell, who cares, laugh at myself and go on with life.
Yeah.
The guy where I would fall and I would get laughed at and I would be scared to get back up. Now I don't care. You can laugh at me all you want. I'll probably be laughing at myself harder than you are laughing at me because I don't care. I'm going to just continue to do what I do because I am strong and I've gained that strength through just doing.
I mean, what have you found has been the biggest takeaways you've gotten over the past 6 months?
For me, I think it was that I was at my hardest plateau that I've ever been at when I first started with you. And because of the weight loss that I've gone through many plateaus. You know, I plateaued at like 280, I plateaued at 240. 240 was my roughest one, I'd say, you know, trying to lose that, like get under that. But then going from like 215 down to 210 and then 210 to down to 205, those were some rough ones. There's a couple times there where I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. The biggest thing that I've come out in the last 6 months with is I have learned how to look at food differently, how I go about looking at food and the way I eat it and the way I do things with it. And the other thing is learning like movement, what movement really is, you know, like being consistent, just moving, just doing something. Because before I, you know, kind of like you were, it was either all in or nothing.
Right.
For me, if I couldn't get an hour workout in, I felt like that I couldn't do anything. It was everything was always structured at an hour. Now, if it's 20 minutes, but I still get a good workout in, that's great. But it's 10 minutes only, and I still do something to get my body moving, I'm okay with that. Anything better than nothing.
That's a powerful motto. Like something is always better than nothing. Again, that's a big mental block. I had to let go of it, thinking if I don't have time to work out because I don't have 2 hours. Whereas now I know, hey, if I got 10 minutes, if I got 20 minutes, I mean, something is better than nothing. And for those of you who are doubting this, like saying, oh, you can't get a workout in 10 minutes, do a set of push-ups, then do a set of bodyweight squats and alternate that back and forth for 10 minutes. And like you'll
get your ass handed to you. Trust me.
You will get your ass handed to you. I mean, like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
You know, you're watching this video. This is taking way more than 10 minutes. Like you could have had that workout done and over with in the time that you're watching this video. I mean, it's crazy, but that's how powerful it can be. Like a lot of people think it has to be these big hour-long, 2-hour-long workouts. No, like you'd be amazed at what you can do in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or something's better than nothing. And sometimes those somethings don't need to take very long.
No. You know, after I started with you, I'm like, people are like, oh, how did you lose all this weight? Well, how did you do this? And how did you do that? Doesn't matter how I did it. You got to start at the beginning. You're at ground zero. You haven't even start with step one. Don't be asking me how I got to step 100, because people are not even willing to go to step one first. I think that's the key, is that people always want to know like how you did it. And I always tell people, yeah, my first year, I counted calories and stuff. But if they ask me like, well, what can I do to do this? I've just learned just to tell them, start with the easy stuff. Don't eat the McDonald's crap, eat a healthier meal and go for a walk. Get up and move around. It's the whole overcomplicating. Like, let's make this crap simple. You've told us many times, you can make things way more complicated later on down the line. You're right. You can. Don't start it right away. Don't throw it all at us at one time. Small steps to equal big progress is really what it comes down to. You can't healthily lose 30 pounds in 30 days and think it's going to be okay. Your body is made to lose weight slowly because you gained it slowly.
For those people who are listening to this now and are probably similar to where you were, you know, they're overweight, they're out of shape, they're kind of like in that frustrated zone. What would you recommend for someone who's going through that now and they're kind of like looking for a solution?
You know, finding a coach really will help, because it's going to give you the motivation and that push to get better. But it's taking the first steps, because if you can start with something basic that you will do consistently every single day, you know, whether it's just a 10-minute workout, a 10-minute walk, or doing something more than you normally would if you were to take the elevator every day to work, then take the stairs. Making, you know, basic changes in your life every week and just basic little things, make it easy. If you normally would eat a giant Big Mac meal, maybe you start with cut down the amount that you're eating by just a little bit. Like, I'm not asking you to stop eating it, just cutting it down a little bit. So it's really just finding little things that you can do and changing things over a period of time, and finding those little things that will make it easier to go through. Don't try to bum rush this whole process, because it's not going to work.
Man, that's powerful stuff there for sure. What you just explained there is just focus on being better than you were before. That's it.
Yeah.
That's a victory right there. Better than you were before. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, this is something I've learned to let go of, and I always preach it to my coaching students, and I even have to keep reminding myself, is like, forget perfection. There is no such thing as perfection. It's just focusing on progress and being better than you were before. If you're not doing any exercise now, then a 10-minute walk, or heck, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, that's progress, right? Yeah. That's something better than you were before. And that's all that matters. And let those little bits of progress compound. And even when you mention the fast food, like if you normally go and you get your McDonald's and you supersize it, well, hey, just get a regular size. Like get the small fries instead of the large fries, right? If you're going to have pizza, instead of getting the jumbo pizza, how about you get a medium pizza? As silly as that is, that's progress. One thing that I've always tried to reinforce now is I take a reverse psychology approach to dieting. Like, instead of thinking of what I'm not allowed to have and what I have to cut out and what I've got to eliminate, I always think of, like, what do I need to add to make this better?
Yes.
How about we start adding in more protein? How about we start adding in more fruits, adding in more vegetables, drinking more water, like filling up on the good stuff. And then that by default just eliminates the bad stuff. Because if you get full on the good stuff, I mean, it's not that you can't have it, it's just there's less room for the not so good stuff. And then if you are craving it, then hey, enjoy the not so good stuff, but just in smaller portions afterwards. And it's kind of like, just by order of priority, filling up on the good stuff first, you squeeze out the bad stuff, but you can still have it in moderation. And that's what makes this an enjoyable and sustainable lifestyle, where you're not feeling like you're on a diet. And one thing that I find is so powerful is to let go of expectations and deadlines, and just think of this as like constant, never-ending improvement. It's just day by day, I'm just going to whittle away at this. I'm just going to work at this day by day. If I get 1% better, like, that's a victory. And then just let those little 1% improvements compound day after day, week after week, month after month. And then year by year, you'll just see the process happening. I mean, as long as you're moving forward, that's a victory, right?
Yes,
instead of having this deadline. So a lot of people go on a fitness program with the goal of, hey, I'm going to go on a 30-day diet, or a 12-week program, or I'm going to follow some 90-day transformation plan, or, and they put these deadlines in mind. And I was guilty of this myself back in the day, right? When I was competing in bodybuilding, it was always the contest, right? Let's say the contest was 12 weeks away. Okay, I've got 12 weeks to get in my best shape. And then, yeah, okay, you get in your best shape in 12 weeks. And then it's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Right? The goal is done. And then it's like the pressure is off. And then let's go back to my old habits and regain the weight again. Whereas if you don't have a goal, it's just constant, never-ending improvement, then the process just evolves. And there's no stress, meaning like, oh, I'm behind schedule. I mean, as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, you're on track, you're on schedule. Right. That's all that matters.
Make it enjoyable. And that's what I've had to do. Like, I've enjoyed the process. Like, I love this process because I know that I'm getting something out of it every day. Being healthier, I get to see my kids every day. I get to not go to the doctors. Like, if you can avoid seeing those type of people, that's a good thing.
Sure. Well, Justin, man, it was awesome chatting with you. I mean, I respect you for what you've achieved. I mean, it's an amazing transformation, and I know it's still a work in progress, but think of how far you've came over the past 5 years. Lost over 100 pounds, and you're still making progress. That's what I respect the most. It's not like you lost some weight and then you rebound and gained it all back, or gained more, because that's what most people do when they go on a diet. It's like, okay, they lose 30 pounds and they put 40 back on. Like, you've been slowly losing weight. Now, granted, it hasn't been steady progress. There's been some ups and downs along the way, but you've been good enough consistently, and you're still making progress. And that's what I respect. And that's why I wanted to share your story here today. So, I mean,
appreciate that.
Just keep going, because that's when it really makes a difference. Not just in the short term, but like, where are you going to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? You can either be that guy who's like, oh, I'm too busy, I can't do this, and always coming up with excuses, or you can be just good enough consistently. And like that's when people look back and say, like, holy smokes, like what the heck are you doing? And they think you're genetically gifted, or you're taking all kinds of fat burners, or you're on some magic macro split, or no, it's good enough, but good enough consistently and enjoying the process.
Being able to take what I've learned for myself and now being able to bring it to other people. I mean, I'm just a normal dude with kids and a life and a mortgage and a wife. I mean, I've got all that going on. And yet I still was able to do that. That's where when people are like, well, I can't do that. You know what? You just added the worst letter in that sentence is the T. So take out the T and just say, I can do it. It may take time, but I'm not afraid to use that time to learn and become somebody else, and become a better version of myself. Don't be afraid to just go for it. Stop overthinking it. You can learn these processes. It really is a simple thing when you get down to it. You just got to tell yourself that you can do it and be positive. If I can take this and bring it out to people and help one person step up and get better themselves, then I've accomplished that much more in my life.
So I hope you found this video helpful and you got some valuable takeaways from it. And I got to say, I have a lot of respect and admiration for what Justin has achieved. I mean, not that long ago, he was tipping the scales at over 300 pounds. And now the last time that we spoke, he's actually down to 195 pounds. So he's lost 110 pounds over the course of his fat loss journey, and he's still making progress. And the cool thing about it is he's doing so without feeling like he's suffering it out on a diet. Like he's not on some crazy low carb, extreme crash diet or anything like that. He's following a healthy, well-balanced program where he gets to eat a lot of food, leave the table feeling comfortably full, and enjoy the process. I mean, how cool is that? To be able to eat and feel healthy and fuel your body, nourish it on the cellular level, and not feel deprived and hungry and irritable and all the drawbacks that you typically associate with fat loss dieting. I mean, he's avoided the drawbacks and he's reaping the positive benefits. So if you would like some help with reaching your own fitness and fat loss goals, just like Justin did, feel free to reach out to me, right? You can send me an email. My personal email address is leeh@leehayward.com, and I'll post that down in the description below this video. And you can send me an email and we can chat. We can discuss you, your situation, your goals, what it is you want to achieve, and see if we can come up with a realistic action plan that works for you. And if I feel that I can help you, then I may invite you to come on board with our VIP Muscle After 40 coaching program. And if for some reason I feel that you're not a good fit or that I can't help you, then I'll recommend outside resources and experts who can help you. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've got a large network of people that I can recommend in the health and fitness industry. So either way, at the end of our conversation, you'll come away with more clarity and insights on what you need to do next to reach your health and fitness goals. And if you would like to see some other conversations of guys who've gone through the Muscle After 40 blueprint and see their real world results, then I'll have some links to them down in the video description below. I've done a full playlist. This is just one video of many of guys who've gone through this program and became before and after success stories. And there's nothing I love more than sharing before and after success stories like this. And my vision for you watching this video, I mean, if you're in a similar situation and you need some help, then I would love nothing more than to have you come on board and help you to become that before and after success story, just like Justin has and just like all the guys who went through the Muscle After 40 blueprint. So if you would like some help with it, feel free to reach out and we'll have a chat and see if we can come up with an action plan that works for you. All right, have yourself a great one, and I will talk to you in a future video coming soon. Take care, over and out.